Now, with Nadine.
I'm honored to have Sara O'Meara and Yvonne Feddersen in studio today. At 90 years old, these remarkable women have spent over 65 years protecting children as co-founders of Childhelp, creating an unforgettable legacy. Before Childhelp, they were Hollywood stars, rubbing shoulders with legends like Elvis Presley, and their decades-long friendship has now brought them together as roommates, making their story even more extraordinary. I mean, when you hear that introduction, how does that make you feel?
Old.
Well, for people that are just listening and not watching, you don't know these women who walked in the studio looking like you're walking out of Vogue. I mean,
Well,
from
thank
your
you.
makeup to your accessories to the style, you're both so elegant.
Thank you.
Well,
We're
that's
glad
very
we
sweet.
came
She said,
today to
I
hear
am
that.
glad to have you. And I mean, does your sense of style go back to your Hollywood days? Has that stuck with you forever?
Well, I've noticed that we usually don't go by the trends. We go by what we feel looks best on us. So we kind of choose classic clothes that last a long time because it seems they're always in style. So I would say that we dress simply in a sense, but we accessorize with it, and we just have been able to choose classic things that last.
Well, you're beautiful and beautiful on both the inside and out. And I want to dive right into your story. But I always like to start at the beginning. How did you both meet?
Well, we met actually doing the Ozzie and Harriet show. It was a family series and very popular. And Yvonne had been on the show. I had just graduated from college and gone through the Pasadena Playhouse. An agent saw me in a play and asked if I would try my luck at acting. And I was very fortunate to be able to get a role on that. That's where Yvonne and I originally met. And then it seemed like we just kept being thrown together somehow. We were Sunday school teachers at the Hollywood Presbyterian Church. We ran into each other. We belonged to the Hollywood Christian group that Dale Evans and Roy Rogers had started. And then Yvonne did a lot of USO shows. And she said, how would you like to go with us to these USO shows we do on the weekends? And I said, oh, I love it. And so we got to know each other because we roomed together and realized our thinking was the same and we believed the same. And we became fast friends immediately.
Immediately. How old were you?
Gosh, about 20, early 20s.
20 in our early 20s, about 24.
And in your early 20s at that time,
No, I guess younger than that.
Younger.
22 maybe or something.
were you both just going after becoming Hollywood actresses? Was that your goal at that time?
At that time, I think it was.
Yes.
We had planned to do that, and that really led us into our mission,
Right.
which changed
Well,
everything.
I think also the way that we went to the school, I can't even think of the name of the school now. Pasadena Playhouse, yeah. And we both went at different times, but we both, there was a person that said that they wanted to represent us and get us working in Hollywood, in movies and television and everything, and try our luck on that. So he became our agent, and this particular one got me on Father Knows Best. I don't know if you knew the show or not, but it was a very popular show at the time.
Right.
So it really started my career. And so once you start that and everything, and one thing led to another, that, you know, we were very fortunate.
Was
And we
that, would
felt
you
like
say
it
that was your first big break? Father Knows Best?
Yes. That was the beginning of it. And then one thing led to another. And once you get on one show, you get on another show. And anyway, we were very fortunate. So it was like it was meant to be.
It was meant to be.
Oh, it definitely was.
What was the Hollywood scene like back then?
I would say that it was different than it is today for sure. But even then, you would raise your eyebrows about Hollywood. And I
I
remember,
want to know what you were raising your eyebrows about.
well, uh, you know,
I think it's changed
it's
though a lot.
notorious for the producers and the people to get involved with their stars in ways they shouldn't. And I know that my parents, when I was in Hollywood, my father said, I'm going to get you a car, I'm going to set you up in an apartment, and I'm going to pay for your pictures that you have to have and all. But if you don't make it within 6 months, you come home. Because I was geared to teach at the University of Tennessee drama.
Wow.
And
Was that home, Tennessee?
that was home in Knoxville, Tennessee. And so I said, oh, this is much more exciting to be in the
Right.
movie. And so when I got this role, I got another one and another one. And then, as you know, Yvonne and I were chosen to go on this Goodwill type tour to Korea, to Okinawa, and to Japan. And everybody wanted to go there. I mean, everyone that had ever been in a USO show. And the reason they did is because they would receive GS-16 rating, which would mean that they were they could travel the same
As a general.
Right.
So that
What-
was pretty good.
What's your favorite memory from that time?
Well, of course, the memory was when we found the children on the street from the typhoon.
Right.
The interesting part is that there is no question that God has been in our life the entire time and directing our footsteps.
That's right.
Because that particular, this was such a big thing. 500 applicants went. Yvonne went one day, I went another on an interview, and we were both chosen. They didn't even
And they
know we
did
knew
not
each
know
other.
we knew each
They
other.
didn't even know.
No.
No.
So, of course, she came back to the apartment and said, I received a call and I was chosen. And I said, that's terrific. And I thought, oh. And so the next day I got the call. So,
That was our first miracle,
That was your first
really,
miracle.
when we both selected.
yeah, it really was. There's been one miracle after the other in our lives, and they're still continuing, believe it or not. But here we were, chosen, and they had wanted us to go on the tour at a particular time, and they extended it to October. And we were kind of distressed about that because the weather was not as good as the months
Right,
prior.
right.
However, that was when the typhoon struck Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
It was the worst typhoon they'd ever had on record. And we were supposed to not leave the hotel. But, you know, we were young and we were bored.
Sure.
And we
wanted to
decided to
explore.
sneak out of the basement to walk around to see the devastation that occurred from the typhoon. And in so doing, found 11 little children huddled together to fend off the cold. They didn't have jackets on or shoes. They were crying. They were huddled together. They ranged from 2 to 10 years of age. We walked up to them and said, where are your parents? Well, they didn't understand us because they spoke Japanese and we, of course, English. And the only thing we understood is they said, no, Mama-san, no, Papa-san. So we decided to sneak them into our hotel room. So we took them up the back stairway of the basement, got them in our room, and that we were staying in a military hotel, and there were maids on this floor that helped everyone. And we called them all together and said, don't tell that we had these children. And so they got in on it and were kind of involved, and they helped us in getting extra blankets and tatami mats and things for them to sleep on our floor that night. We ordered food, rice and things up to our room. So we had approached earlier when we had them in the room to the colonel who was overseeing our tour. He traveled every place with us, Colonel Pling. And we asked him, we said, these children need to be placed in an orphanage. And he said, you have them in our hotel? And we said, yes, we do. And he said, get rid of them immediately. He said, you have no idea the paperwork alone that you've caused. He said, don't let anyone know you have these children. And we said, well, we're not going to turn them back out.
Right. What are you supposed to do?
If you give us a list of orphanages, we'll take them to it. So we piled the children in a cab. It was a military-based cab. And so fortunately, the driver spoke English and Japanese. We went from orphanage to orphanage to orphanage to orphanage, and the story was always the same. They were overcrowded.
Beautiful.
They had a lot of children actually orphaned by that typhoon, and they had taken them in. So we had to sneak them back up the steps and have them spend the night. And the next day we started out, and we were getting nervous.
That was quite an interesting evening.
Right. And you're like, what are we going to do?
Yeah, and so it was, I don't know, in the afternoon, and we became very nervous because we had a show to do that night.
Sure.
And what were we going to do with these children? So we approached Colonel Fling with the children. Of course, he nearly fainted to find out we still had them. And
You still have them?
yeah. So anyway, he asked, he said, I do know of a man, head of Tokyo Gospel Missions, Dr. Hugh Martin, and he is an American citizen, but he's also a Japanese. He has dual citizenship, but he has taken in children that are half American since we found out they were half American, that's why they were turned out of a particular
Wow, that's
orphanage.
why
That's
they
why
were
they were
turned
all
out.
together.
And we had no idea.
You didn't know.
No, we didn't realize.
So anyway, here we were with these children still not placed. And we went to this Dr. Morton. He was heading back because of his dual citizenship. He had to spend so much time in America. He was leaving, but he said, I do know of a wonderful Christian woman that takes in these children sometimes, even though they are of mixed blood. Now, the reason why it was so bad, too, is because they don't receive a stipend from the government
Right.
because they are not full-blooded Japanese.
Right.
America said, they're not ours. Japan said, they're not ours.
So whose are
So
they?
these children literally did not have a birth certificate. They were no place.
Wow.
The government would not pay for their care. We realized that they're placed in our care, and there's nothing we can do about that but keep them. So we told Mama Ken, and that's where Dr. Morton told us to go. When we reached her place, we were horrified because it was like almost a dump. It had no front doors, no window panes. There were 2 rooms. One you could look right straight through, and there were a group of children on a hibachi keeping warm. The other room with a hibachi, she was fixing food. We go and ask her to take in our children, and she said, I can't take care of the ones I have. She said, I have no money. And so we said, would you trust us if we come back tomorrow with money and help you and help the ones you
Make that
have?
happen.
And she looked at us a long time in the eye. I guess the size of the size of stuff,
Sizing us up.
Sizing you up.
and
Can I
said,
trust you?
"Yeah, I'll." She didn't say yeah, but she said yes, that she would trust us. So we stopped the show that night. You want to tell them what we did, what we said?
Well, we told them that, some of them might be yours. Tried to make them very guilty. And so they smiled, of course, and laughed, but they did realize the seriousness of it. And they were wonderful because we told them that we needed them to help us to fix this place up of this lady's because she needed to do everything. We need to build on her place so that we could take, our children too, because there was no room at all. And these men were wonderful. They came with all kinds of equipment and everything to build up her place. And they did. And they built on the place. And then they went shopping with us. And we bought all kinds of things for the children. They helped us buy all these things. And they were just fabulous. They helped us in every single way. We just can't thank them enough.
And so, I mean, back then you saved their lives. And I think, you know, at a time where you expressed wanting to have a career as an actress and then feeling drawn to helping, even when you're on location somewhere, you found that in yourself.
Yes, but there were 21 children by the time that we added hers and our 11. And so we became a little orphanage overnight. What happened is people left the children on the doorstep and up the block with notes pinned on them for the orphanage of mixed blood. And so we kept adding on and adding on and adding on. By the time that we left to come back to America, we were there on our tour for 3 months.
For 3 months.
And so when we came back, we had really built an orphanage of over 100
The servicemen had.
Of over
Yeah.
100.
They had done all this. They were wonderful.
And is that in your head when Childhelp was born?
Yes, but we did not know it.
You didn't know it yet,
We
but you
came-
knew in your soul at that point.
Well, we knew in our soul we would take care of these children until they graduated, and got to the point where they could take care of themselves. We knew that God had placed us there and that we
For a
were
reason.
supposed to do that. However, we had no idea it would end up being our life's work and
Right.
where it would
We
go.
just thought we were going to
You thought
take
you
care
were
of
helping,
these particular
helping
children.
care of
Yeah, we
these
started
kids.
out with 21. We left with 100,
100.
and we have helped over 13 million children now,
13
but not in all in Japan. As you know, we've grown in different areas.
Right, but going back in chronological order, you return after 3 months. And are you still in that Hollywood scene? I mean, I know there's dabbles of Elvis in there. Like, do you return to Hollywood?
We returned then to Hollywood.
Yes.
And did movies and
You did movies. Like what
and
movies?
Parts. She did. We were in one together.
Which one? Which one?
Was it called Drug Strip Riot?
Well, we did a lot of those, Drag Strip Riot and
The teenage movies and things like that.
all of those things. In fact, we still get fan mail, if you can believe it. It's just amazing that they're still rerunning them somewhere, all around the
Right.
different countries. It's just amazing. But the wonderful thing about it, when we began our work, when we came back to the States, we had no money. And we thought, oh my goodness, how are we going to take care of all these children? But we always said this was God's organization because we knew that it was God that really
Sure.
provided for both of us to be on this trip, and then to find the children and everything was a miracle. It seemed that happened. Even the trip when it was delayed,
Right.
and like she said, we went through the typhoon, one thing and then another. So we knew that this was something that we had to do, but we didn't realize how big it might turn out to be. But we just wanted to take care of these children at the beginning. So we had a lot of wonderful friends, and this is where Hollywood came in. Because, these people have a lot of beautiful hearts, many of the stars, and they gave of their time. And they heard about what we were doing, like Debbie Reynolds and Connie Stevens and all those.
Burt Reynolds.
And early on, they jumped
Early
right on your
on.
bandwagon to help.
We
And
did
so
it
they said, well,
together,
we
as
want to
you did it
help you.
together.
We
put
want to help
shows
you get
together,
started.
Fundraisers.
So they
you put on
started doing
shows
events.
together as fundraisers with
Yes.
other actors and actresses.
And they were wonderful.
So you felt like you had a lot of Hollywood support.
Yes, and we ended up building 4 orphanages in Japan.
Right, right.
And we thought, by then we were married
Right.
and having our children. And so we thought at the end of that time, when the children would grow up and everything, we would probably step out. Well, it was really just the beginning. We were asked by Congress to be saluted, and we didn't even know they knew about that.
That's incredible.
So, we just thought that was wonderful. But on the plane going over to accept this award from Congress, Yvonne said, "You don't think they're going to ask us to go into Vietnam, do you? Because we've been reading about the half American children there. And I said, oh, no. And then I said, you know what? They might. So we have to figure out a graceful no.
Right.
We spent the entire plane trip writing out how we would graciously say no if they asked
And did they
us.
ask?
Yes, of course.
They asked, and
They
they
asked.
showed us the pictures. They told us everything. They said General Lewis W. Walt will be assigned to you. He will pick out the orphanage sites if you will do what you have done in Japan. And we didn't even look at each other, and we both said, we'd love to.
Right.
We got back on the plane, and we said,
What did we just do?
What have we done?
What just happened?
yeah.
What just
have
happened?
we
Let's rewind.
said? But we came back, and to Yvonne's point, our friends got together. We raised funds, and then we got the Navy League and the Marine Corps Reserve Officers Association to join us. We ended up building 5 orphanages, a hospital, and a school in Vietnam for the half American children. So now we had 9 orphanages, a hospital, and a school. General Walt would always come over, literally, from Vietnam in order to attend our major fundraising events that included.
He was wonderful.
He was wonderful.
It really was. And General Walt was such a fabulous man and loved children. And so he told us at one of the fundraisers, now, girls, I want you to know that we may have to pull out of Vietnam. I heard from the president. And if so, don't send over any more money because we're going to have to leave. And you know that the Viet Cong will come after the half American
Right.
job. And we said, oh, that'll never happen. Well, of course it did.
Sure.
He called us a short time after that. We couldn't sleep that night when he told us that because we knew our children were in danger. And so we prayed that night about what to do. And we said, well, you know, Congress got us into this, and we're going to go back to them and demand we
That
get
they
these
get us.
children out of there. And we did. And our own congressman was the lead with us on this. And we got planes, and we went in and got the children out. We personally didn't, but, you know, the
Right.
military people and everything. And brought the children to this country to be adopted. And every single child that came to our soil was adopted.
Every single one.
Every single one. We were not an adoption agency then. We are now in some states, but we called the adoption agencies and said, we have these children available. They're flying in. Do you have parents that you have already okayed that you can call to see if they will take this child? Every one of them were taken, which really speaks well of America.
It speaks so well of America.
I want to shout out for our
Yes.
volunteers. I
Right.
mean, we had started out as a volunteer, and we've had volunteers right by our side since the very beginning, whether they were stars, whether they were just our friends.
Sure.
And, you know, they've been wonderful. And I think we have the best volunteers of any organization anywhere. And many of them have been with us since the beginning.
Since the
So
beginning.
it began, I mean, it now is their mission too, because they've been with us for so long. And every single month, they have an event for us. One of our chapters, and we have chapters all around now the country. And they're all wonderful, very devoted, and they raise so much money for us. We couldn't do it without them.
I think it's so incredible, you know, seeing both of you, and this is many years ago, that you can vividly recall all the details that you just shared because it lives inside of you. And you really, truly remember.
Yeah.
Like, you know, sometimes you'll talk to people and, you know, like, oh, you know, I kind of remember or this, but I feel like you can close your eyes and recount every single detail of what happened. And you could take yourself back. I could see it in your eyes. And I find that unbelievable and commendable.
We were very fortunate because life was different at that time, and
Right.
we could go to the senators and the congressmen, and they were wonderful to change
Absolutely.
laws for us and everything. And it was, they were all wonderful to work with us.
Sure.
Well, we thought now our mission really is over because the children in Japan had grown up.
Did you stay in touch with them?
Some,
Yeah.
yes, but not anymore. They're grandparents,
Their grandparents, right?
just like we are.
Well, remember how they also, when we started our work here, how they baked cookies and everything and sold it for us and gave us money because they said we helped them at the time when they needed help, which we still did help.
Sure.
But they wanted to help us start our work when we started our work here in America, helping the children.
Well,
that's
how
another
that
whole story.
occurred is after the Japan and Vietnam, and we thought that now we can, just devote our time to the families. It was just the beginning, because we were asked to be the keynote speakers about Vietnam and how we organized the Vietnam Baby Lift, and in so doing, we were on the dais with us were the Reagans, Nancy and Ronnie, and Nancy stopped us afterwards. She put her arm out and she said, "You're just the two to do it." And we said, "Do what?" And she said, "Child abuse. Child abuse in this country," she said, "is the best kept secret." And she said, the perpetrators, they stand by the perpetrators in the law, and these children are so abused. And we had never read it because you never read anything about that. And we kind of thought, what is she talking about? So almost flippantly, we said, well, we're coming to a close, and we'd have to do a feasibility study, and that would cost a lot of money, and blah, blah, blah. And she said, she turned to Ronnie, and she winked at him and said, "I think we know where we can get that, don't you?" And he said, yes. The next day, there was a check that was delivered to our house.
The next day
The next day, from the Reagans.
from the Reagan.
It was a personal check.
They constantly supported us.
I mean, you
were
lived
wonderful.
history.
We lived history.
You lived history. What year were you born?
I was born in 1934. I'm 90 years old.
1934. And you were a part of history. You were a part of change. And I do want to shift gears a little bit because I think that your relationship together is so fascinating. I know you said you both went off to get married, have kids, but before you got married, there was Elvis somewhere.
Well, I did a movie with him, Loving You, and we became very close friends and dated and everything, but we were very young at the time. We were like, in our early 20s, and he was a wonderful man when I knew him, and of course, in fact, I visited him and his family for Easter, and we went to church together, and he was very close to his mother, and he was a real sweet man. But anyway, I think we had a lot of wonderful times together. And I think if he had lived longer, he would have been a big supporter of ours.
Absolutely. I have no doubt.
Because he was very giving.
Are there any standout other people besides Elvis that stood out during that time in Hollywood that really played a role in evolving?
Well, we lived there, so we were part of that.
You were
group.
part of it.
Yes,
They
we
were your
part
friend.
of it.
This
Yes.
was your
Well,
network.
Bob Hope and Dolores
Bob Hope.
did a lot. They opened their homes many times
Many
for
times.
fundraisers. Phyllis Diller, you may
Oh,
not
she
remember
opened
her,
her.
but she was a comedian.
Jane Seymour.
She was
Yeah, Jane
very,
Seymour.
Oh,
very,
the list goes on and on.
Jane
They were
Seymour
wonderful.
is still very active
Right.
with us, and Cheryl
Right.
Ladd and Kathy Lee Gifford. Kathy
Kathy
Lee's
Lee's-
coming
Yes.
to our event
Yep.
that's coming up. So
She's done so
they
much
were,
for us.
They were wonderful to help us. One thing I wanted to complete for the circle is the fact that when they asked us to do the child abuse, we did study it, and we built the very first residential treatment center in America for abused children, and from that, the National Child Abuse Hotline, and from that, a prevention program. They are in all over the United States. and Canada and the Virgin Islands, our hotline. And then we have networks of foster homes and group homes and advocacy centers. We have an advocacy center here. So we're the largest nonprofit for child abuse in the country.
In the country. And you've just celebrated
And the oldest, because we're the
Well, you're, I mean, not by the look of you. But to reiterate, Childhelp is 65. Like, we're
66
going on
years old.
66. I mean, you're probably one of the oldest organizations.
Oh,
like
we
this.
are.
You
Yeah.
are to do this. I mean, looking back and hearing that you paved the way to help over 13 million children worldwide. How does that statement make you feel?
remember that's a lot of people that helped us.
There
we
are
didn't
a lot
do
of
this
people.
alone.
That is true. But there's leaders too, and you've paved the way.
You ask us how it makes us feel. We're very thrilled that we could help those children, but what doesn't make us thrilled is it's still happening,
And that you have to help these children.
and that the numbers keep going up,
Right.
and that does not speak well
No.
of America or any place else in
agree.
abuse. So
trafficking.
that,
Right.
as we look back, we're happy that we could help the ones we have, but it's always looking forward. What more can we do in order to help more children?
And the hope I'm sure you've had over 66 years is that the longer you do this, the less you have to help because it's ending, but it's just not. I do want to talk more about your friendship. You both went on to get married,
Oh, yes.
have kids, have grandkids, but something brought you back together. Can people listening and watching? You guys, they might not know you live together. You're roommates. How long have you? What sparked moving in together? It's so funny because you lived together when you were 20, and then you went on to have your lives, and this is truly a story of sisterhood that brought you back under.
I think we're closer than
Close
sisters.
because you can't you're-
Right.
You don't choose your sister. This is a person that you've chosen as your
True.
family.
But
What brought
even-
you back together under one roof?
Even when we were married and had children, we were every day working together.
Together. Don't you get
Every
annoyed
day.
of each other?
And our first, Ephraim Zimbalist, he was a great actor. He used to say the miracle is that you and Yvonne are still
You're
together.
still together.
And I guess
I know people say, "Do you ever fight?"
I want to know what you fight about.
No.
Nothing. You fight
We
about
don't,
nothing.
though.
Do you eat
Well-
breakfast together every morning?
most mornings,
Yes.
most days, we always eat dinner together. But that was unusual that you would end up living together
You ended
again.
up living together. So can you walk us through that? You went on to, you still saw each other all the time, but both of your husbands since passed away.
Passed away,
Yes.
and we live now in the same house, and we have offices in our home for our executive assistants,
In your
and
home,
we do everything together in that house. We started not going to the office during COVID,
Right.
and then we have changed all of our bed. It's kind of a large house, and we've changed
you can
every
work
single
there.
bedroom into an office.
And how long have you lived together?
Gosh, forever. it
Well,
seems
we've
like.
30 years we've been here.
Right, but
So
how
we-
long have you lived together under one roof?
Well,
When did you move
30
in?
years because
30 years.
from the time we moved here, her husband passed away after the house was purchased,
After the house.
Right
and
after.
so
Right after.
right after.
I'm
So
sorry.
we have lived here.
So Bob had both of us to take
Yeah,
care of
my
him.
husband had two wives, and then he passed away, and so we remained living together for 30 years. But before that, we had our own homes
Right.
and brought our children up. But before that, we shared an apartment together.
I mean, your husbands are probably undoubtedly looking down and have such a sense of comfort knowing that their women ended up together. What's it like living together? I mean, I know you've done it for so long; it's natural.
I can't imagine it not. Now.
It's just very natural for us. It's
Very
not
natural.
anything. I mean, it just is. It's just like sisters.
You said
really.
you eat dinner together every night.
Yeah, The way the house is made up is there are two suites on either
Right.
side of the
So
house.
you have your own
So
space.
it's kind of like a duplex,
Right,
know, but it's
right.
not a duplex. It's all one house, but it's made as such. It was just tailor made actually for us. But I think the one thing about our lives is we both try to put God first,
Yes.
and we let
That's the whole secret.
Him guide our footsteps. I know that sometimes we get in His way, and we like to say we listen to God, but sometimes, or most of the time, as advisors.
Right.
And so, I think because of our like-mindedness and our faith and trust in God, that we don't think of arguing. We have sometimes a difference of opinion for sure, but it's not a hard argument or we get mad at each other.
Do you sit and reminisce?
Once in a while we do, especially at dinner time. We'll be
Right.
talking about something will come on TV and say, "You remember so and so?"
Do you remember that? Do you remember that?
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's so interesting. What do you do? I mean, your lives are literally dedicated to helping others. Do you do anything for fun, the two of you, to just have a good time and escape everyday life? Do you do anything fun together that you enjoy? Going to the movies?
So much going
We
on.
go to the movies.
You go to the
sometimes, and
movies.
We have a lot of fabulous friends. The people that will be replacing us one day are our closest friends, Carol and Jim Hibbets.
Right.
And we're with them a lot, and we have a lot of fun with them. We have gone on vacations together, and so there's fun in our life. But most of it, even if it's fun, it's still absorbed with Childhelp because
Absolutely.
they're working with us,
Right.
and we're working. So our conversation's mostly about that.
And, let's talk about you both as moms and as grandparents. What advice do you tell your children? What are things that you hope to instill in your kids?
Well, in our kids and in our grandchildren, we constantly remind them about God leading their life and to listen, to not always be talking to God about what they want, but listening to what His plan is for their life. And fortunately, I can say that the grandchildren that have turned out beautifully that way, and they understand it. They also are a part of Childhelp
They are a part of it.
and have become young professionals group, so they're in the Childhelp group.
Yes, yes.
And so I'm sure they will carry on in some capacity of Childhelp.
We also have a chapel at our home, so we're
Lovely.
busy with that. And once a month, Sarah does a sermon.
That's lovely.
At home.
And do you have your family come?
Oh, they're
yes.
always there.
They're always there.
They're ushers. There are about 250 people.
Oh,
that
wow.
come. Yeah.
That's
So
lovely.
We also write books and things like that about Christian books
Right.
and about healings because
Right.
she has the gift of healing. So our life is very full.
Your
God's
life
been
is very
very
full.
good to bless us in so many ways.
And you've seen you've seen kids and you remember, I'm sure, sadness in their eyes, yet the way you speak is you just feel like your lives are full because you're able to help them.
Yes.
Well-
There's a lot of sadness in this world.
Right.
And if people would just realize what life is about is helping others.
That's
Helping
exactly
others.
right. We
And
all
it's-
should be doing that.
Yes, we should.
It's
yes.
the solution to happiness.
It's the solution to happiness. What's as far as sermons go, do you have a memorable sermon, a memorable message that you like to reiterate every time, or is that it?
It's different topics. My next service will be on angels, and everyone has a ministering angels and citing scripture concerning that. And
Who is your angel?
well, I don't know the name of my angel, but I know the feeling of my angel, and I have seen angels.
Right.
So But everyone has one. They don't
Everyone has
realize
one.
that when they especially accept Jesus in their heart, they're given a ministering angel. It's not my word. That's God's word.
Right.
And there are many, many scriptures telling about that. So that's an example
It's an example.
of a service that I give.
If you could relive one moment, whether it be from Hollywood, from Childhelp, from, your marriages, your kids growing up, if there's one moment that you're like, this is the moment I could just relive. I relive in my heart all the time. Both of you, what would it be?
Gosh.
That's a hard question, I know.
Well, I had cancer when I was in my early 30s.
Early 30s.
And it was riddled throughout my body, and I was given less than 3 months to live. And that was just at the time that we were building the first residential treatment center in California. And so when that was told to me that the Pedersons were there in the room when the doctor told us the news, I was devastated because I had two little boys to raise. And anyway, the television was on, and there was a program. You may not know this person. I didn't either at that time. Catherine Kuhlman. She was a great evangelist, and she had the gift of healing. And she said, if you're listening to this, be at the Shrine Auditorium this Sunday. God is going to heal you. Well, it was like she was talking to me, and I thought, oh, this is probably a holy roller type thing, but I don't care. I'm going to be there.
Right.
So I called the Shrine Auditorium and asked if there was a certain door or something we could go in without having to stand in lines, because I saw all these lines. I knew that I was way too weak to make that. And I was not supposed to get out of the hospital. And the doctor came in to see me, and I said, I have to be out by Saturday. He said, you can't be because you'll bleed to death. I had an incision from right under my earlobe all the way down almost to my kneecap.
Goodness.
And it was, in the days, they didn't have stitches, they had clamps. And so my body was clamped. And he said, I bugged him so. I said, I will not move. I crossed my fingers under the sheet. I will not move. Yes, I have people to administer to my needs.
Yeah.
No, I won't get out even to go to the bathroom. But I knew I had to be there.
You had to be there.
And so I was determined to be there. A friend of mine took me that day, dropped me off to go in that special door where our names were put down. And I was there even earlier than was told me to be there. But when they answered the door, they said, every seat is full. We can't do it for the fire department. We're sorry, we can't let you in. And, all hope left me at that time. I thought, I can't believe I can't get in. So I walked out to the curb to meet my friend to say, go get the car. We can't get in. And somebody recognized me. And they said, Sarah? And I said, yes. And they said, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I don't feel well. And I was hoping to be in. And she said, I came out to get in my car a sweater, but I want you to have my seat, and my husband will get up and give his seat. Well, usually I'd be gracious enough to say, oh, no. And I said, oh, that would be wonderful. Well, she was seated on the very last row of the first balcony. I realized there were tons of steps to get up to the balcony. They didn't have an elevator.
They didn't have an elevator.
When I was stepping, I saw my footprints made in blood all up the stairway. So when I got to the seat, I literally just plopped. I don't know how I even made it. And the minute I sat down, my whole body floated up to the right side of the auditorium. There was a pink cloud surrounding me. And I could see this, but I could hear the music because there was a huge choir. Then I could hear Catherine, but it wasn't anything she said that touched my heart. I just knew she was talking. And I thought either I'm dying or I'm hallucinating. Then, as clearly as I'm talking to you now, she called out and said, "There is a woman in the balcony
Oh my goodness.
that is being healed of cancer riddled through her body." At that
I
moment,
have chills.
my body, I came back into my body, and the Holy Spirit was so strong on me that it knocked down the entire row on my left where I was sitting. I had never been to a service like that. We were Sunday school teachers at the Presbyterian Church, and we certainly didn't have services like that. So I was sitting there in a daze with the Holy Spirit going through me, and she called out, "You will feel like thousands of needles are going through your body," and that's exactly what was happening to me. And then she went on to preach, and she came back and said, "I cannot grieve the Holy Spirit. I must go back to this lady. God is saving you for a very special purpose. Identify yourself." Well, the ushers saw all this commotion in my body and knocking down people that were sitting in the row. I wasn't, the Holy Spirit was. And an usher came up and kneeled and said, "Aren't you the one being healed?" And I said, "I think so." Duh.
I hope so.
And he said, "Well, go down, Miss Gilmore."
Oh my goodness. The
And
last
I
seat in
said-
the balcony.
I said, "Oh, I don't know about that." And when I said that, a voice as clear as could be said, "You mean I would do that for you, and you would deny me?" I jumped up as fast as I could. I had never heard a voice like that. And it was like 1,000 needles going through me with the Holy Spirit still, but it was also like hot oil. Of course it wasn't, but that's the way it felt. And I stepped out to the side and realized all my strength was back. And I literally glided down those stairways. And as I got to the end of the stairway, I was in back of the long aisle, and Catherine Kuhlman was up at the podium. So, you can imagine when you come down and then the whole auditorium's filled. By the time I got there were a lot of people that wanted to get up on the stage to tell Miss Kuhlman about their healing.
Your healing.
So I said to God, "I'm here. You can see I'm here, but I'm not going to be able to get back up there because too many people are coming." At that point, Catherine came over to the side of the stage, and she said, "The girl in the very back," and she had alluded that I had a red dress out, and I had a red, white, and blue dress, but mainly red. She said, "Make room for her. I want to talk to her." So it's like the parting of the Dead Sea. I went through. I went up on the stage. She said, "Tell us what God did for you today." And I told it exactly like it happened, with the pink cloud, the whole thing. And then she had told the usher to get my phone number. When I went home, my skin had healed up over the clamps. When I went back to the doctor that Monday morning, Yvonne and Don were there. The doctor comes running out of the examining room and said, "This is the kookiest kookiest girl I've ever seen."
I said, "I agree."
Her skin is healed up. I've never had cancer to this day.
And they told you had 3 months to live.
I had less than 3 months to live. It was too much in my body. I did lose all my glands in the left-hand side of my body. They took all my glands because it was in my glands.
Sure.
And so you're not even supposed to live without that,
Right.
all the glands. Anyhow, from this day to that, I realized that God had given me a chance to do things for other people.
Absolutely.
And so at the little chapel, when I speak, many people are healed. I don't touch them, but they're healed.
But they're healed.
So God used me in that way as well. But, He uses every one of us. There isn't one less important than the other. He has it planned that way. But if we don't do what God plans for us, it loses the cog in the wheel, and the wheel wobbles because everybody's not doing what God wanted them to do, which is 10,000 times better than what our own plan is. And so I think that what I would like to say to anybody listening is how important and how worthy you really are, because you are made in God's image, and He has a place for each and every one of us. If you will love others as you love yourself, you can't imagine the magic that will come to you, which is all from God's hand.
And that is why 13 million children and the number growing, you continue to touch and change and save them, truly, and heal them. I mean, it's an honor and pleasure to have you both here. It's incredible that you're so beautiful and eloquent at 90 years old. People don't realize, like, that's not, you said 1934 you were born. Like, it's incredible that you're here, that you're still able to make that impact on communities, not only nationwide, but worldwide. You have a lot of events every year. In fact, the one coming up in April, I'm truly humbled and honored to be the MC for that. And thank you for allowing me to just play a little role in helping this tremendous mission. Over Christmas, actually, my kids and I, we brought must have been 5 huge trash bags to your office in Scottsdale, because I always teach my kids, like, we have to give back, but it's so nice to know where it's going, right?
Yes.
For them to understand what they're doing.
Yes.
And where it's going, and what you've created for not only people who need it, but for people who want to instill in the next generations to give back.
Yes.
It's so special and it's so sacred. So is there anything else you want to add? I mean, I could talk to you forever.
Well, also, it doesn't matter what age you are, because you can be 85 or as old
Right.
as we are almost.
Well, you're living past 100. I know it.
You can always do something, if you can make pillows, you can make things for the children, you
Little
can make
goes a long
clothes
way.
for the children. I used to have an aunt that did that, and that meant so much for her to do this, and it meant so much for the children. So no matter what age you are, you can always find something that you
Always.
can do, and all of us have gifts, and we should use those gifts to help others.
Absolutely. And you both do. And again, I want to reiterate, you're both tremendous leaders, but you have a team of volunteers nationwide
they're
that,
wonderful.
that work tirelessly for this cause, but also feel a part of something, and that's special for them too.
And we thank you for being our MC. Carol Hibbets is the founder of that group, Wings Group.
Right.
And she's called the mama of that group. And I know she was very excited that
Oh, I'm so thrilled. Well, it's lovely. For people who don't know, it's also a fashion show.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
have the kids model from the volunteers, which it's also showing the kids how to
That's
get
right.
involved. That's the very special thing about Childhelp.
Yeah.
A lot of times when they have volunteer opportunities, the kids are always involved. Parents are always bringing their kids, making bracelets or
Yes.
anything.
That's
They're-
important.
It's so important, because this is the generation that will continue the legacy
That's right.
that you've had for 66 years. I think it's so fantastic. And I'm truly honored to have you sitting here, and thank you for what you've done for so many children who desperately need hope and
Well,
healing.
we thank all the people that supported us and who have helped us over the years, and our wonderful staff. All of them have been fabulous
Right.
to do everything they can for the children.
And, Childhelp doesn't turn down anyone. So if you want to get involved,
That's right.
you can. You
You
can
can.
find them, on the website. You could find them, Childhelp, on Instagram. I mean, they are all over, and there's chapters all over. So no matter where you are, there is opportunity for you to get involved in this beautiful organization.
It's like the mafia, though. When you get in, they don't let you out.
Well, this is a good mafia. We'll take this mafia.
Good
We'll
mafia.
take this mafia, and then we'll take your sense of style any day. So thank you. It's been an
Thank
honor and a
you.
pleasure. Get involved with
Thank you.
Childhelp. It's such a tremendous and beautiful initiative worldwide. And yeah, you can visit us on Instagram at Nadine Bubeck. And ladies, it's been a pleasure. We will see you next time.
Now, with Nadine. Produced at Star Worldwide Networks.